It's much better instead to get everyone to have their opinions heard, but then disagree and commit, rather than to wait for consensus. Hey, it's Bilal, and this is Deep Sea, a podcast about seeing the world more deeply. I've worked in so many teams over the years at all levels, as a junior, senior, and as a team leader. What's interesting is that some teams have operated really well, while others have been truly dysfunctional. I've often wondered why this is the case, especially in the cases when on paper at least a team should have been a super high performing one, but it turned out to be just the opposite. An excellent study by MIT's Alex Pentland sheds some light on this. What he did was to create two teams. One was made up of very high intelligence people, and another of average intelligence people, but high emotional intelligence. He then threw a set of challenges to both teams, and lo and behold found that the second team of average intelligence, but high emotional intelligence consistently outperformed. The reason was that they shared their intelligences and knowledge, while the high intelligence team ended up descending into ego battles. We shouldn't also underestimate the importance of good managers. Google once even tried to get rid of managers and found that chaos soon followed. They reinstated the managers and studied the performance of managers extremely closely, and they found that certain managers did transform teams. The common traits of these managers were that they were good coaches, they didn't micromanage, they expressed interest in team members' success, and they had a clear vision. Perhaps the best work on teams is that of Patrick Lencioni. He describes how teams suffer from 5 dysfunctions. They lack trust, they fear conflict, they lack commitment to decisions, they avoid holding each other to account, and they do not pay attention to team results. He sees this as a pyramid, starting with trust at the base and inattention to team results at the apex. So let's elaborate on each one of these. So number 1, the absence of trust. This would be the unwillingness to be vulnerable within the team. Individuals who are not open about their mistakes and weaknesses make it impossible to build a foundation of trust. You can see from the outset how this foundation would emerge as everyone tries to show off how clever they are. The second one was the fear of conflict. The lack of trust naturally leads to everyone not engaging in unfiltered and passionate debate of ideas. Instead, they resort to veiled discussions and cautious comments. I often find that corridor conversations after a meeting are where you really see people's true ideas and disagreements, but they're unwilling to say that in meetings for fear of conflict. The third dysfunction is a lack of commitment. So without everyone's honest opinions in the course of debates, team members will not commit to decisions, but will pretend agreement in meetings. The fourth dysfunction is the avoidance of accountability. So, if we don't have commitment to plans, people will hesitate to call their peers on actions and behaviors that are counterproductive to the team. And the final dysfunction, number 5, is the inattention to results. Without caring about the performance of fellow team members, individuals will put their own needs and success above the goals and success of the team. So you can see how starting from lack of trust, you cascade into the eventual outcome of an inattention to details and an underperforming team. So how would the opposite look? And how do we get there? Well, the first thing would be to trust one another. Trust is the confidence among team members that their colleagues' intentions are good, and there is no reason to be protective around the team. Trusting teams admit weaknesses, they ask for help, they give one another the benefit of the doubt, and they take risks in offering feedback. Vulnerability-based trust cannot be achieved overnight, and that's the critical thing. It requires shared experiences over time, so you need to be patient in developing this trust. Some of the tools that can help are sharing personal histories, so sharing the number of siblings you have, what hometown you're from, the challenges of your childhood and hobbies and so on. Another thing one can do is team effectiveness exercises, where each team member identifies a behavior that helps the team and one that hurts the team. And there's several other tools one could also use as well. Now, the second trait of a good team would be to engage in unfiltered conflict around ideas. So there's a difference between conflict around ideas and conflict around personalities. Both are conflicts and can have passion and emotion, but one is healthy and the other is not. Teams that engage in conflict have lively meetings, they get the best ideas out of all team members, and they solve problems quickly. Perhaps the best tool to help in this regard are pre-mortems, which I talked about in an earlier podcast on decision making. I won't go into the details here, needless to say that this is a very effective way to give people permission to talk about disagreements around a particular project. The third positive trait would be to commit to decisions and plans of action. The big causes of a lack of commitment are the desire for consensus and the need for certainty. It's much better instead to get everyone to have their opinions heard, but then disagree and commit rather than to wait for consensus. A team that commits creates clarity around the direction and priorities, it aligns the entire team around common objectives, and it develops an ability to learn from mistakes. One of the tools that can help in this regard are cascading messages. It's a very basic thing, and this would be where at the end of staff meetings, a team should explicitly review decisions and agree what needs to be communicated to the rest of the staff. This ensures that the staff in the meeting were on the same page and be clear what is meant to be confidential and ensure the team is clearly aligned. The fourth trait would be to hold one another accountable for delivering against those plans. One of the most effective means of maintaining high standards is peer pressure. A team that holds one another accountable ensures that poor performers feel pressure to improve and identifies potential problems quickly by questioning one another's approaches without hesitation. One tool that helps in this regard is the publication of goals and standards. So this will be to clarify publicly exactly what the team needs to achieve, who needs to deliver, and everyone must behave to succeed. Finally, the focus on the achievement of collective results. Two things distract from team results: team status and individual status. The former, team status, makes individuals complacent as they're happy to cruise along as part of a high-status team or institution. The latter, individual status, makes individuals care about their own performance over their teams. A team that focuses on collective results retains achievement-focused employees, and it minimizes individualistic behavior. One thing that could help in this regard is a public declaration of results. This makes the team much more likely to work with passion. Having run through all of this, it goes without saying that the team leader has to embody them all more than anyone else. I've got more details on the tools and exercises for team performance in the show notes, so please do refer to them. I hope you found this podcast useful, and thanks for listening. Please tell a friend about the podcast, leave a rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Spotify, or wherever you go for podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @BilalHafiz123, or you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or on my blog, bilalhafiz.com. I'll be back soon, so tune in then.